What's going on, you guys? My name's Niko and I'm going to show you how I went from a 205 to a 148. And honestly, to tell you the truth, I did it in one meet. One meet I ran 205, and the next day I took 148.
So, not being scared.
Welcome back, 93.7.
On the internet. KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. Live from the heart of Lincoln, America. Welcome to Ticket Weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome in. This is the Niko Project. We don't have Niko here with us, but nonetheless, he still got in his work, got in some videos, some interviews that Niko was able to do before we got to this Sunday. So he's got a few great ones. Obviously, as the track season is ramping up, he's got some videos about prepping, cutting down times, the season going on. And he's also got some interviews with basketball players as well, in particular after beating Iowa. So plenty of great content up here ahead, and we will go ahead and get that started for you. So here's Niko. Go ahead with some of his interviews. We'll play those for you guys, and be sure to comment if you got any questions.
Ticket. It's been a little while since we've done one of these interviews, but we got her here live again in the flesh. Darian White, basketball player here at the University of Nebraska, who just recently took down number 2 Iowa. Unfortunately, she came down with a little bit of a knee injury these past few games, but that was her first game back, so she only played a little bit, like 10 or 11 minutes in the game, but she's still a huge part of this team. She's been helping the team a lot this year, transferring in from Montana State, where she smashed a bunch of different records. And actually, this knee injury that she had was the first time she's ever missed a game. So she's very durable. So she's over here killing it. D, how you feeling about being on the pod again in the same spot?
I'm excited. Thank you for having me again.
Of course.
I'm sorry it's been so long.
No, don't say sorry to me. Say sorry to the fans, man. The fans out there, they need you, man. So go ahead. I want to just talk about a little bit about this Iowa game. A lot of hype's been building up around it. So for all the viewers that clicked on this and want to hear a little bit about that, what was your guys' game plan going into the game? Was it always your plan to try to lock down Caitlin? Was it your plan to defeat number 2 Iowa? I mean, obviously every team, they go into a game, they want to win, but you knew that you were going against one of the best in the nation. How did you guys plan for that?
I mean, there was a lot of planning to it, but we just scouted, honestly, like every other team. We walked in there knowing that they're the number, oh my good Lord.
Number 2?
They're the number 2 team.
Right.
But also not being scared. And I think we used our fans for, to our advantage.
Right.
And we played off of one another. We played together, and it made it super fun. It made it possible to get it done.
Right. I mean, Pinnacle's special, and I know they were leading going into the fourth. I mean, what was your guys' game plan in the fourth? I mean, by then, Caitlin already had probably 25, 26 points, or I think she was already at 30, and she scored none in the fourth, correct?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so the fourth quarter, I mean, what do you think that was? I mean, do you think that she knew that the record was close, and then her priority switched from trying to get this record to trying to win? Or what do you think her mindset was when, you guys started creeping up on her?
I don't know. I think if she could go back, obviously she would take the win. If she could still get the record
Right.
at our place, but I think she probably wanted to break the record at home.
Yeah.
But by any means, I don't think that she wouldn't have gotten it to lose.
Right.
Because I know she's a very competitive person, just as we all are, and so yeah. But what was the other question you asked?
I mean, the way I phrased it was the amount of, so she was going for the record, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And then when she got in the fourth quarter and she noticed that you guys were starting to close, do you think she started going for
Yes.
okay, like her transition, her mindset switched from all right, record to we got to win this game?
Yeah.
And
I
so,
think it definitely switched. But by then, I don't know if she was cold or what, but obviously
Right.
she didn't get going again, so
Right.
it helped us.
Yeah, no, literally. I know that a lot of Iowa fans were there. I mean, you weren't even allowed to drive around Lincoln just because of how many fans were there, and everybody packed it out. And because there was a rumor going around that if she were to break the record in the first, second, or third quarter, that we would have had a stop of the game, and then there would have been like a huge light show.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure if you knew that, but
I did not.
It's a rumor. It's a rumor. That was the plan, and they were talking about what type of colors it was going to be, like NCAA colors or Iowa colors. Mm-hmm. And then once it got to the fourth quarter, I think they kind of scratched that because obviously it's a close game.
Yeah.
So a lot of fans were super upset with that, and there's been a lot of speculation. And speaking of speculation, the Jazz Shelley infamous right here. I mean, you're obviously on the team. You do know that was a play call. I mean, what were your thoughts when you saw Twitter just absolutely going crazy over that?
I actually didn't even see it during the game.
Really?
So I had no idea what they were talking about. But when I saw it, I immediately thought that she was kind of doing that too, like just talking smack. I can't even lie.
Right. It looked like it, the way the camera zoomed in.
And then she was like doing it really aggressively.
Right,
So I was
right.
like, okay, she's definitely talking smack. But then I talked to her after the game, and she was like kind of freaking out. She was like, I'm gonna get canceled. Like I didn't mean it like that.
Get canceled. No, she didn't get canceled.
But she was doing it, and my head coach Amy was also doing it because it's
a
one
play
of our
call.
Yeah, it's one of our defensive calls.
Where do you rank this Iowa win? I mean, amongst your career. I mean, you've had a lot of big games throughout your career. You've been playing ever since 2020. Where do you rank this one, on your all-time list?
It's number one.
Really?
Yeah, I've never beaten I mean, that's a huge win.
Right.
And just for any team, honestly. I mean, they were number 2 in the country. Like, that's insane.
I know. I mean, what do you think about Pinnacle Arena, man? I mean, even the men's team, I mean, you guys have really got some momentum going there. I mean, what is it? Something in the water, something in the air? I mean, what's going on with this Pinnacle Arena,
man?
Really?
It's the fans, yes.
Storm in the court. I mean,
yeah,
it has to be.
I mean, there was a lot of Iowa fans there too.
Right.
That traveled all over, I mean, from everywhere to watch Caitlin play. But just to have the energy and the environment that we're in when we have that many fans there, it's electric. Like, I've never been in an environment like that. I mean, at my last school, our most fans that we had at the game was like 6,000, and that was like
what was Pinnacle the other day?
Like over 15. Yeah, and so it was just different, and that type of energy, it's so contagious. It's so much fun to play for.
Yeah,
I think that helps us.
Snap. I mean, women's sports here in Nebraska, I mean, speaking of just coming off the momentum from earlier in the fall semester with volleyball inside of Memorial Stadium, I mean, Devaney is packed every single time those girls play, and then coming to Pinnacle Arena, even for the men, for you guys, it's insane.
Yeah.
Like, I just love going to your guys' games. And so, I got to ask you, I mean, for all the viewers out there who haven't seen her last podcast, this is her first year within the Big Ten inside a Power 5 conference like this. So I got to ask you, I know you came down with that knee injury, but, leading up to that, what was the change for you coming from Montana State to Nebraska, obviously traveling a lot, facing a lot higher level competition? I mean, kind of walk us through that transition from Montana to Nebraska.
I mean, a lot. I would say one of the most challenging things that I have experienced here is probably just like the mental aspect of things. Like, scouting is so much different. You have to be so much more like locked in. And
scouting as in like your film sessions and things like that,
and scouting like other teams and knowing personnel on each team. It's a lot more specific, and you have to know every player's skills, what they like to do, what their tendencies are. It's very specifics, and there's a lot of like details to each player. And at this level, like, you can't have a lot of mess ups because every team is so good. So yeah, that's probably one thing. And then obviously just the physical side of things. Every player is just so much faster, bigger, stronger, and everybody can shoot. So it's just, I feel like every player here, they can only do this, so you can just play off them or guard them super tight because they can't shoot. Like, everybody can do.
Everyone's versatile.
Everybody can really do everything. So it's a lot of just playing the game, which it's nice, it's fun, but it's still it's a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
more tiring.
you mentioned everybody. I mean, everything's kind of intensified. Do you notice your body, your change, your play style from your last school to now? I mean, do you see a physical difference? Do you see a difference in your play style? I mean, what's changed for you in just your game? Or do you think that you kind of carried over the same type of play style that you had from Montana State?
Kind of the same play style, but I think that I'm playing at a different pace and I'm able to read things a little bit faster. I would say it's more of like a mental thing, physical, but I definitely feel a lot stronger and stuff too.
Right. I mean, you are a fifth year. I mean, how much does that play into account too? Versus, like, let's say you're going against a sophomore or a freshman versus fifth year, you have 5 years worth of experience. I mean, how much does that hold true?
I mean, just kind of what you said, just the experience, it gives me a lot of confidence. And knowing that I do have the experience, it allows me to go into the game with not feeling like I'm not prepared to play any team, but the transition was definitely difficult when I first got here just because of not being experienced in the Big Ten. So.
Right. I mean, you mentioned that before, everything's kind of more intensified, stressful. How do you manage all that versus when it comes to school, when it comes to traveling? You're flying all over the country, taking all these buses. I mean, how do you handle that? And then two, the pressure from the fans. I mean, all the Twitter talk and, all the outside noise. I mean, how do you just hone in on what you have to do in your job?
It's definitely a challenge, I think, every day that not only I struggle with, but a lot of athletes with the pressure that they have from fans. But talking to my coaches, seeing other resources, here on campus. I see Dr. Bree, our sports psychologist, and so I get to talk to her about a lot of stuff that's going on, and I'm trying to think what else. Talking to the girls about it, being honest with them, and just really focusing in on the inside of the team, because outside noise, it's hard not to listen to, but at the same time, like, those are outside voices that don't know what we do, what we put in, the time that we put in, the effort, the energy, all of it. So
Right.
yeah.
And so if you had to give the biggest difference between, kind of like a team like Iowa, for example, when you guys play, versus a team like you guys. I mean, like, any given day, anything can happen. It's basketball. I mean, March Madness is absolutely insane. But I mean, what do you think the difference was that night when you guys did beat Iowa? Tough question.
I don't know.
Tough question. Very tough question. I mean, it was a close game.
Yeah.
Nobody expected you guys to win, and then lo and behold, you guys pulled it off. And even the men's team too, they pulled it off. And obviously the home base of Pinnacle Bank Arena. But I mean, for that specific night at Pinnacle, when you guys took down number 2 Iowa, what do you think it was?
I think that we stayed together. I think that was truly a game where I could sit here and be like, every play, nobody gave up. Like, our toughness and our mentality that game just didn't switch up. We weren't up and down. And of course they had their runs and stuff, but we responded to every play that they made. And that's something I think that we've had struggles with this year. And so I think doing that against one of the best teams, it was impressive. It was insane to watch and play in.
It was insane just being in Nebraska. Yeah. I mean, literally. And so moving forward, how do you plan on closing this out? Because then again, this is your 5th year. After this year, you do plan on going overseas and pursuing a professional career in basketball. Yeah. How do you want to close out this year? I mean, what do you think would be a statement? And how do you want what would be a proper send-off for you?
Focusing on one game at a time and making it to the NCAA tournament. I know last year they were super close and ended up not making it.
Right. And
so this year I want to make it to the tournament and do well in the Big Ten tournament too.
Right.
And just see how far we can take things.
Right. If you don't mind, I'd love to take a kind of like a backwards step, kind of on how you even got here, even before Montana State, before you really broke all these records. I mean, growing up as a little kid, what inspired you to pursue basketball? And obviously, did you have dreams when you were a little girl to come here to the university and play, or what was that about?
Well, my older brother played basketball when he was younger. My dad was his coach, and then one day I kind of just picked up a ball, and my mom was like, Derek is my dad's name. She was like, Derek, you have to get her to play. She enjoys the sport. She always wants to be out there on the court with her brother, and so get her into the sport, and that's kind of where it started.
Man.
Yeah.
And then from there, so I'm gonna guess your dad was also your coach.
Yeah.
Transitioning throughout the years.
Yeah.
A lot of traveling AAU, a lot of what was that about when you were growing up? And was ball his life 24/7 or what? Did you try the sports?
Yeah. I didn't really play any other sports. My dad eventually made me start doing like other training. So I did like some boxing, and I was doing like what do you call it? Like explosive training, kind of like track workouts.
Really?
For like my footwork, and trying to get me to have like better agility and stuff like that. And so yeah, I've always had dreams of playing college basketball, but I didn't really know much about it until I was actually like in the process of being like recruited and stuff, because I just didn't pay attention. Like
You're just balling.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, when I got to, I would say probably like 8th or 9th grade, I started taking things like pretty seriously. Started going to bigger tournaments, started practicing like 2 to 3 times a day, lots of trainings, like a lot of stuff.
Right.
So yeah.
And then Montana State, were they the first one to get at you contact-wise for a scholarship or what?
No, they weren't the first. I don't know where they were at in line, but I don't think they were the first. I think, oh my gosh, Idaho State was.
Idaho State,
yeah,
really?
in Pocatello, Idaho.
And then what separated them from the rest? Montana State, obviously, when you got all these scholarships and all these opportunities to go play ball. What separated Montana State from everyone else?
My coach, Coach
Really?
Ben. Yeah, she just seemed very, compared to other coaches, I thought that she cared about me other than like me being on the court.
Right.
She cared about me as a person, about my family, my life, other things going on outside of basketball. And that made me feel like I was a part of a family when I was there. And that's also what I was like really looking for when I was in the portal. So it's figures I'm here too.
Well, speaking of the portal as well, coming here and improving your game or staying on Montana State and kind of being like a mini on-campus legend. I mean, why did you choose to come here instead, pursue something new versus, finalize things over there?
I kind of reached all my goals that I had over there, like things I wanted to accomplish at Montana State and also just in the Big Sky Conference. And because of COVID and everything, I got an extra year, and I just wanted to take advantage of the opportunity that I had. I think that coming here and playing on the platform that I have been playing on in the Big Ten, it shows other coaches like or for like my professional career, it shows coaches and agents what I'm capable of on this level, and I think that that's going to help expand my opportunities that I may have after the season.
Yeah, and speaking of that, if you don't mind, we'll kind of do this as a little bit closing remark. Agents, professional career, post-collegiately, what are you currently in the process of doing that? What's the best case scenario for you after college?
I'm not allowed to talk to...
Oh, disclose it? My bad for the agents out there.
That's it. I'm not allowed to talk to or sign with any agents, but I'm allowed to talk to them and see what the process is going to look like. But right after this season, I'm hoping to sign with the agent that I've kind of talked to and I know a little bit, that knows about me and thinks that they can help me. And then after that, probably go somewhere overseas, maybe in Europe or Australia, to start a professional career there.
That'd be amazing, man.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing. What's that lifestyle like? I mean, is it just balling 24/7? I mean, I forgot what your major was again. What's your major?
I'm getting a certification in youth development.
Youth development. So are you going to be teaching on your off time, or is it just ball is 24/7?
So I think I actually want to go back to school.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going to get a certification to be a doula, a postpartum doula. But over there, it depends where you go, obviously, and what league you're in and what team you're on. But some other girls that I know that are overseas practice 2 to 3 times a week, and then they're done, and they make pretty good money. Yeah,
wow.
I mean, it's not rookie year, it's not going to be super good, but over the years you can make a lot of money for playing basketball.
You're exactly doing the sport you love, making money, and on top of that too, getting your degree. And you have something lined up for you, post professionalism. So that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Dee, I mean, if you have anything for the fans out there, anybody, or anything that somebody would like to know about you and the rest of your journey, I mean, go ahead and share. I put you on the spot again. But any closing remarks, words of inspiration for somebody who possibly would want to be in your shoes one day?
Anything is possible. It's kind of cheesy, but I mean, just work hard, and honestly, hard work pays off. And keep supporting Nebraska athletics. Keep supporting Niko here in his podcast. Thank you for having me.
Of course, AD. Thank you. The fans out there love you. Thank you so much, guys. This has been 93.7 The Ticket, Niko and I podcast. We out. Peace out.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now, they've raised wages again, and they're hiring for production operators at $24.62 per hour, which grows to $28.97 per hour within 3 years. Skilled trade positions now start at $33.36 per hour, with opportunities to make more based on certifications. Continental also has salary jobs available and great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates, with increased bonuses and vacation for new hires. To learn more or apply, go to continentaljobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
Anxiety.
Load up on meat and more this winter at the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese at 84th and Havelock. This week's specials through February 20th are fresh cut ribeye for just $17.99 per pound and buy 2, get 1 free on Montoya potato gnocchi. And don't forget about lunch on Fired Up Friday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Locations at 84th and Havelock and 30th and Yankee Hill in Lincoln, or 168th and Maple in Omaha. Get to the Mercado today for the best meat in town.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them?
By their clothes,
their age,
the way they speak.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
I think it's just vapor. Vaping is safer than smoking, isn't it?
There's really not even that much nicotine in them, right?
One vape pod has as much nicotine as 1 pack of cigarettes.
My kid
knows it's dangerous.
5.4 million American kids vape, and most think it's harmless. Get your head out of the cloud. Talk to your kid about vaping. Visit talkaboutvaping.org. That's talkaboutvaping.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. That's doihaveprediabetes.org.
Wait, did they just say 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes? That's 33.33333% of adults. That means it could be me, my boss, or my boss's boss, or me, my favorite sister, or my other sister. That's 7 members of my 21-person romantic book club. Wait, the 1 in 3 could be me, my karaoke partner Carol, or my karaoke enemy Jeff. I'm going to take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
As an 18-year-old, I let my mistakes kind of take over my life. I was 0.5 credits away from completing high school, and I didn't do it.
10 years later, at age 28, Jackie finished her high school diploma.
When I found out that I was pregnant, I know that I had to do something for myself if I wanted to make her a better person and provide a better life for her. My family never stopped pushing for me to be better because they knew what I could become and who I could become as a person. My support team is amazing. The educational director, my sister, and even my 7-year-old daughter has just been more than the support that I could ask for. I've been given an opportunity, and I'm just thankful for it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them? By their clothes? Their age? The way they speak? Would you notice a 16-year-old boy who got his first job,
not for extra spending money, but to help feed his little sisters?
or a mother who's in between jobs and sometimes goes to bed hungry so her kids can have dinner? Or a 14-year-old girl who signs up to every after-school activity, not to make friends, but just to get something to eat? Or a retiree who fell ill and had to choose
between getting medicine or groceries.
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. People you pass by every day but never knew were hungry. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
Back to the Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
What's going on, you guys? My name's Niko Schultz, and I'm going to show you how I went from a 205 to 148. And honestly, to tell you the truth, I did it in one meet. One meet, I ran 205, and the next day I took 148. I just took this one drug called... Let me stop playing. This was actually, I gotta say, a 6-year process. Yeah, I think 6 years is the right thing from my freshman year of high school in early 2018 all the way up until 2023. So yeah, 5-6 years it took me to go from 205 to 148. And each year and each time barrier that I broke brought its new challenges and different learning lessons throughout the way. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, 205. Let me give you guys a little backstory of the type of athlete I was when I was 205 pace. So when I first started running track, the sole purpose of why I was running track was because of football. I only wanted to become a football player one day, to become a Division I athlete. That was my lifelong goal, was to play Division I football, was to be at a D1 school and live that D1 lifestyle. I always wanted to go to the NFL. And so my coach was like, hey, Niko, listen, I think you should join track. You did middle school track. It was cool, but I really didn't fall in love with it. Just in our off season, instead of getting into the weight room and getting super swole, because I was very skinny at the time, I'd say you go ahead and run track and see how it goes. So here I go doing track my freshman year of high school, and I'm over here trying to be a 100, 200, 55 meter runner, and I'm getting smoked, bro. I'm getting smoked almost with girl times, because as you 800 meter runners know and milers know that we do not have a lot of power in our start. And so I'm getting just left, I'm getting destroyed, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this track thing is not for me. And so my coach looks at me. He also was the cross country coach as well. He's like, I feel like you'd be make for a pretty good 800 meter runner. I'm like, oh man, here we go with this. I'm gonna do all these miles, I'm gonna get super bored, but that actually wasn't the case at all. I didn't know that there were any speed-based 800 meter runners. And so I was good enough with the 400 where I was like, okay, I'm cool with the 4, but the 8, I cannot lie to you guys, it was very intimidating. And so my very first ever time running the 800 in high school, it was a 4x8, and I was the first leg, and I got out like a maniac the first, I think, 400 meters. I got out completely sprinting, and the crazy thing was, I never died. I kept going. My frame at the time, I want to say I was about maybe 5'9.5", probably 5'10", but I was probably like 135 to 140 pounds, if that. I was light as a feather. I had abs that you can see from a mile away, but I was very cut, but like really not a lot of muscle. And so I run this thing with the 400 meter approach, and somehow I don't get past, nobody catches me, and I run a 2:13, and I'm like, man, that was easy. I felt good, I felt confident. I was at the front of the race. I was like, okay, maybe 800 is my race. But then the next week, I got thrown into a meet at the University of Illinois. And that's when I knew I was facing some big dogs. I was facing some sophomores, juniors, and even seniors. And as a freshman, you know how this is. It was very intimidating to face those upperclassmen. And so I get to the meet, and I'm very hyped up. I'm locked in, right? I'm like, all right. My coach comes up to me right before I run this 800 at the University of Illinois. He looks me in the eye and says, Niko, nobody's gonna tackle you. This isn't football. You have no risk of being injured. Go out there, have fun, and compete. And that really did something to my mind. I said, dang, I don't gotta worry about some 6'7" dude over here tackling me at QB or getting my knees taken out. Let's go. And so I get out. I'm the one leading the race all the way through for the first, 200, 400 meters, 600, I get passed. And when somebody passes me, that's when I'm at my best, because I know that I have somebody to chase down. So I'm chasing this guy down. I beat him with the last, I think, 50 meters. Somebody to the right of me completely flips over and trips. Bam, 205. I'm the number one freshman in the entire state. Nobody knew where that came from. I didn't know where it came from. And that's how I found out that 800 meters is my race. And so we're going to fast forward here a little bit to the outdoor season of my freshman year. So in 2018, around, let's call it March, May possibly. And I was on the A 4x8. We were en route and going to state, and I was super excited. And I ran a split of 159 at the time. And so I did that, obviously, as I talked to you guys a lot about my training early on. I was football heavy, but then as I started to progress throughout my track season, I got a little bit lighter. My mileage started to increase a little bit. I was still doing my morning runs. I was training with the sprinters, and so I was very much a hybrid in between the 800 and 400. My speed carried over. Bam, 159 as a freshman as a split. So it's nothing crazy. And my outdoor 800 meter PR that year was a 203. So I bettered my PR by 2 seconds, and that was my entire freshman year. Unfortunately, we did not make state. I ended up fumbling the ball and splitting a 207 at one meet because we were behind a lot, and I really sprinted the first 200 meters in like 25, and I do that now because I'm built for it. My fitness is built for it, but back when I'm 15 years old and I'm trying to maintain that speed, nah, man, you can't do that. I think I might have been even 14 at the time. I don't even remember. It was like 14 or 15 years old, and yeah, my body just was not able to handle that. So let's go ahead and fast forward a little bit into my sophomore year. So sophomore year, I am officially into the 159s. I opened up my season with a 203 indoor, so I knew that I was faster to where I was last year, but I still had some work to do. And unfortunately, my indoor season was a little bit lackluster. There was a little bit of a heart problem or a heart scare I had going on. My heartbeat was a bit irregular, got tested, had to sit out of track for about a month and a half, and so I was a little bit out of shape when I came back. But this is where I really progressed in the 400 meter. In the 400 meter, I came in and my speed maintained throughout that little time of that heart scare. And indoors, I ended up going like 51 low, 51.3, 51.2, and like they call it the Indoor Championships of Illinois. And I went there, and that gave me a lot of momentum going into my outdoor season of my sophomore year. So that's about 2019, early on in the winter months of January, February. And so transitioning into outdoor, I was really focused on my 400. I was doing a lot more speed-based training, but I was still staying on the morning runs, and I was still staying very fit. And I was just a lot more tailored on trying to figure out how I want to run my race and who I am as an athlete. Football, I had an amazing season, so that still was my main priority. But then this year for track, with my experience from last year, I really brought that over and started to develop a little bit as an athlete. And so a lot of people knew my name. Colleges were starting to look at me, but still no scholarships at all. And so transitioning into my outdoor season of my sophomore year, I ended up going 49.9 and 159. And those are some pretty big marks. I was honestly more pleased with that 49.9 than the 159 because, at the time I wanted to be faster. I think I was like number 5, number 6 in the state for sophomores. And when it came to facing the seniors, I wasn't even in range or anybody's radar. So I was really focused on the 400. Unfortunately, I went to state for the 400 and they ran like 50 point, didn't make it. And I didn't bet on myself for the open 800. I went to state for the 4x800, but then I ended up splitting like a 158, 157, and it really wasn't enough to bring us to the championship rounds or the finals that day. So I had a big chip on my shoulder entering my next season with those PRs that I mentioned to you before, 49.9 and 159 in the open 800. And still not many colleges are, texting me, contacted me. I believe I went on a junior day visit to the University of Iowa, and that was my first ever time getting contacted by a Division I school. And so they made their mark on me early on. I was super impressed with their facilities, but I still had a lot of work to do, and I knew that I was nowhere in range of getting a Division I scholarship because, as you guys know, on these track and field rosters, I believe it's only 12 and a half people do end up getting scholarships, full ride scholarships, and they have to distribute that between the entire cross country team and the entire track team, which is upwards of 120 to 150 people sometimes. So you have to be a next level athlete in order to get a really good scholarship at a Division I track and field school. So keep that in mind throughout the story and what I'm about to tell you guys next. So going into my junior year, unfortunately for my junior year in football, it was not my year at all. I started to really lose love for the sport, and little did I know it was actually going to be my last year ever playing football in high school. And that really tore something out of me a little bit for my spirit. And I always had dreams and ambitions of going D1 from football, but really no schools were contacting me from football. If you think I wasn't getting contacted for track, think about like twice as much less football. I was nobody for football. And that really hurt my ego, my confidence. And I was like, man, I thought I was a football player, but at least I had this track thing to fall back on, rely on. So let me hit track as hard as possible. And this is late 2019, and everybody in this video knows what comes next, COVID. So I enter up my track and field season, my junior year, with so much fire, so much ambition, so many goals that I was so ready to accomplish. Our team was, I believe, ranked within the top 5, top 10 that year as a whole. We had people in every single category. I opened up my season with a 156 alone on a 180-meter track. And so if you were to translate that to a 200-meter track or even a 200-meter bank, that might have been a 154, 153 type race. If one, I have competition, and two, I'm at a better track, and three, if it's later within the season. I mean, I was doing that my first meet, and people were like, oh my gosh, this guy's crazy. And you know what happens right after that? Right after I run those marks, and I'm the number one 800-meter runner in the state, not just for freshmen, but the entire state. I'm the number one 800-meter runner. You know what happens? Bam! Pandemic, COVID, done. Months, there's no communication with any colleges. Colleges were on a very strict rule. They were still trying to figure out what was going on with them. And then the recruiting was even worse. And I'm like, man, I don't got a football scholarship. I don't got a track scholarship. My entire junior year track season's over. And this is supposed to be your best year. You're supposed to have a scholarship lined up for the next upcoming year. What do I do? And so, mind you, my PRs at the time are 156 and still that 49 because I wasn't able to obviously open up and run my race. And so I trained like a maniac throughout 2020. I joined the cross country team because football was no longer a thing for me. And I joined the cross country team, and I hated cross country so much at the beginning. I hated it with a passion. I hated running the miles. I pride myself on being a speed-based 800-meter runner, and me going out there and doing those 5Ks absolutely killed my spirit. I didn't want to be there, but my coach prioritized the long-term goal of what doing cross country would help me with for the future. And I cannot thank him enough for forcing me to do cross country and get out of my feelings and push me to finally pursue what I actually was meant to do, and that was to become a more fit and endured runner. And so I quit football. I stopped trying to gain weight and get all crazy big, and I commit to track full time. I'm running 8 miles, 6 miles, and doing all these ridiculous K repeat workouts, and I'm hating them, but I'm starting to see the results quick. I'm getting more and more in shape. I see my body transforming, and I have a lot of endurance, but my speed is no longer there. So right after the cross country season went over, I PR'd with a 16:02, by the way, in the 5K. So it's not bad, it's respectable. But right after my season was over, I immediately hit speed as hard as possible because one, my back was against the wall. I'm into my senior year. I have no offers, and I am planning on these unattached track and field races in Chicago, and because these are my last hope. I don't even know if we're gonna have a track season at this point. So I'm like, man, I have to figure out what I'm gonna do to get to that next level. PRs, 156, and still that 49. So I actually saw my AAU coach. I forgot to mention that back then. I used to train with an AAU coach, after my football season to get right because, the track training wasn't for where I wanted it to be. So I joined a little club for a little bit for a month or two called the Flyers. Coach Boatwright. Shout out to all my Illinois fans. If you were a part of the Flyers, man, go Flyers, man, fly time. And so I joined him, and he gave me a lot of speed advice. He had coached so many great runners in the past by the name of Kamari Montgomery. He was the Illinois state record holder for the 400-meter run with like a 46 low in high school. Marcellus Moore, 20-point guy, a 6.5 guy in the 60 right now, leading and killing the NCAA. Goes to the University of Texas. So did Kamari, I believe. He went down to A&M or somewhere near Texas, I believe. And then now me as an 800-meter runner. He coached me, and I'm at the University of Nebraska now. But we're almost there. We're almost there in how I got to this mark, because there's still a lot more to the story. And so I joined AAU. I learned a lot, and then as soon as the pandemic hit and I finished cross country, I immediately went to my speed coach. So I got as much endurance as possible, stacked the endurance up to here, but my speed was down here, right? Go to my AAU coach. He gives me a whole bunch of running tips and advice, fixes my form, tells me about how to implicate my force application throughout the race when I'm running my 400s. He was very 400 heavy, and he was telling me about getting out fast in that 800-meter run is going to serve me well for the back end of my race. And I listened to him. I approached all my races aggressively, getting out in 54s, 55s, and just staying relaxed and staying comfortable. And he really instilled confidence within me. He instilled confidence about that I can make it to the next level, like Marcellus or Kamari or any of the guys that he's coached in the past. And he saw that I had the passion, and that's another big part of it too. Self-confidence and the self-belief that you can make it to that next level. You know, if you tell a 205 runner he's going to go 148, there's a long way to go. Obviously, it's not going to work. But if you tell a 205 runner, go 203, go 202, you know, he's splitting two flats, 159s, right? Then confidence starts to come. I say, all right, I can do these things. You got to set attainable goals and achievable goals in the near future. If you tell yourself you want to jump 17 seconds, it's not going to happen. If you have $500 in the bank account and you want to make $500,000, it's not going to happen in one day. But you can make it happen if you stack good habits on top of each other, and that's what I was doing. I knew that if I did not get a track scholarship in 2021, I would be going to work right away and give up on my track and field dreams and give up on everything that I have in current day. And I'm glad that I didn't, because I was putting in work when nobody was. When COVID hit, a lot of people were better than me. A lot of people were lined up, were in position to beat me that up and coming track season, but they didn't. They folded. The pandemic, all of this nonsense about the COVID stuff and yada, 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 they fell victim to it, right? They took it from a victim approach, but I saw it in a different, I looked at it from a half glass full type of approach. I thought, okay, I don't have school, I have online school, which really didn't even count. I can put as much energy into becoming the best track and field athlete that I can possibly be. And so I did that. I poured my heart and soul into my training. AAU coach, when it came to the 4 mile, 5 mile morning runs, when it was, 2 degrees out in Illinois, I would do them. I would go to work. I was working at Walmart at the time trying to get some money up. And then next thing you know, I'd show up to these track and field meets and I was ready. I would do workouts in the dark with my buddies. I gathered two of my best friends at the time, Gabe and Brian. They were both younger than me. I would literally set them up in different positions of my workouts. Let's say I had 5 300s, right? I would set Gabe up at the 100 and Brian up at the 200 and be like, all right, you're gonna race me here, and then Brian, you race me on the back end so I can keep my form and tell me how I look. And then we do it again and again, whether it was cold, whether it was hot, whether it was snowing, raining. We trained because I knew that I wanted to make it to the next level. We did hill workouts together. We played football together. We did stuff to just stay in shape, because they knew I wanted to go D1. They knew I wanted it bad, and honestly, they didn't have quite much else to do. And so now looking back on it, those guys helped me go Division I, II. And so there's so many different sections of my story and how I got to different places. And getting to that 154, right, in Chicago, these meets that I mentioned to you, where if I didn't run good, I wasn't gonna get a scholarship. I show up in around January, early January, all this training, and I'm thinking, all right, I go out there, I run a sub 155, I got my scholarship. Bam, I go to this meet, get out, nobody's even near me. I think the next time after me was like 4 or 5 seconds after. So I ran 154 low, break my indoor school record in the 800. Next thing you know, nobody's even near me. But no colleges had contacted me for a scholarship at all. No colleges said, oh my gosh, Niko, this 154 you ran indoors, that's awesome. Like, I want to give you a scholarship. Nobody called. I remember at the time a JUCO school or NAIA school ended up contacting me, and they're like, listen, man, that 154 is good, but no Division I school is going to offer you at that time. You are not that athlete yet, but I can develop you. Come to my school. Basically saying that I wasn't capable of doing it. And I say this story and it sounds pretty funny because he probably did not mean this at all, but I was very hard-headed at the time. I was making up scenarios in my head, almost like Michael Jordan, on ways to get angry and more reasons to get me motivated to train harder and to obtain that scholarship that, I heard that and took it as, oh, you're not good enough to do it. You're not deserving of that. And I said, absolutely not. So you know what I did after that? After I ran that 156, I trained twice as hard than I trained in the previous months. I'm almost puking in workouts, and I do not puke in workouts, but I'm setting the treadmill to a crazy incline, and I'm running like 2 miles on there as fast as I can, passing out after, heartbeat just killing me. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm going to hills. I'm sprinting as fast as I can. I'm in the weight room doing push-ups, lifting. I'm hungry, right? I never approached anything with more hunger in my entire life. I was ready to die for it almost, right? And so I had another race scheduled coming up for the 600-meter run. And so I had never run a 600 in my entire life, didn't even know what the race was, didn't even know why the race existed. But there's a big backstory coming in about some kid coming from Wisconsin that was supposed to come and beat me, a phenom sophomore. And I just wasn't gonna let that slide. And I knew that the state record was 120. I came through 600 in my 154 and 125. So I'm like, all right, just full out sprint this thing, let's go. So I show up to this race, all these headlines are talking, blah, blah, blah. They're like, this state record's about to get broken. I didn't care, I didn't give a damn about the state record, right? All I cared about was trying to get a scholarship. And if breaking that state record was gonna give me that scholarship, then let's go. I'll go 110, I didn't care. So I show up to this race, bam, the sophomore's on the outside of me, and some random kid from, I think, Boston or Manchester is on my inside. And I get out, I pass the sophomore instantly. I'm like, oh yeah, we're killing this dude. Who is this guy? Next thing you know, the dude from Boston flies past me. I'm, what? So he comes through in like 23. I'm like, all right, this is the race that I need. So I'm right behind him in 24. We're going. We come through 400, like 51 low. Next thing you know, I'm like, dude, I have so much energy right now. Who's this kid think he is? Bye. Pass him on that backstretch. Sprinting down the home straightaway. Families in the crowd going crazy. The announcers glazing. Next thing you know, bam, the whole entire board goes black. Dang, what did he just run? That looked like a fast time. Oh my gosh, 119. And the announcer goes, ladies and gentlemen, you just witnessed the fastest 600-meter time in the entire nation. And oh my gosh, after that, my entire world changed, bro. I got scholarships or texts from coaches that I've never even seen or heard of before somehow within seconds after my race. I pick up my phone, Iowa, Nebraska, Purdue, Penn State, Illinois, freaking, I don't even know who else, but there was more colleges on that list. And I'm like, what do I do? Literally, I spent that entire night answering phone calls and getting on Zoom calls with different people because they were so shocked by that 119 and that state record getting broken. And that's all it took. I thought I was gonna, break the Illinois 800-meter record or the 400-meter record in order to get a scholarship, but that 600 is the only reason why I'm here at the University of Nebraska today, because of that approach that I had. And fast forward a little bit, I get to the University of Nebraska, I open up my season in December in a 152, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, we're gonna go crazy this season. And then bam, I get hurt, stress fracture in my shin, done for the season. So I train, I'm cross training, I'm getting back to and doing pool workouts. I open up my outdoor season unattached after 5 months of injury with the 152 again. So I maxed my indoor PR. Then I trained all out that entire summer, hoping to come back and to prove myself that I belong at this university. And me getting here on that 600-meter race that I just mentioned to you guys before wasn't a fluke. And so I come back and I'm training. I open up in December with a 600 118, a smooth little 118. And then I come back in February, actually, in Arkansas. I'm actually going to this meet next week. So in 2023, I went to Arkansas. I'm facing my high school rival. I went to Plainfield South. He went to Plainfield North at the time. And he gets out on me in this race. He passes me coming up upon 600 meters. I pass him again. Bam, 148. And it sounds crazy, and I try to explain this as fast as possible because you guys can't be on YouTube all day watching my story, watching my videos, but it is just crazy because each time I've done that, my body type was different, my habits were different, the way I looked at life was different. I mean, dude, when I'm running 205, I'm 15 years old, 14 years old, and now I'm 21 years old. At the end of this year, I'm gonna be 22 years old. I mean, that's 6 years. That's 6 years of training and learning and developing and how to become a better 800-meter runner. And on top of that, dealing with different life things too, dealing with school, trying to work and trying to make money, trying to become financially free and financially stable, on top of communicating with people, on top of trying to keep up with school, keeping up on your diet, making sure your workouts are getting good, not trying to get help, not trying to get injured. And inspired you to become a better athlete, whether you're a girl, guy, 400-meter runner, 100-meter runner, miler, 5K, 10K, really whatever, even a thrower, whatever the case may be for you. That's just my story. That's my story, how I've gotten to this level. And I'm hoping to keep on sharing this so that one day when I make it to the next level and hopefully represent Puerto Rico one day at the Olympics, that we can look back on my college times and be like, all right, this is where he was at. Now this is where he's at. He's at the 142s, you know, how I went from 148 to 142. What does it take? And I remember an 800-meter runner telling me this, that once you go under 150, everything else kind of feels the same. I mean, that 149, 148, 147, it all sort of feels the same. I kind of tend to disagree with that a little bit because there's been some 148s and 149s that hurt a lot worse. It just depends on what type of shape you're in. And we can cover that inside of a totally different other video, but that is my 17-second story and my personal 800-meter journey of going from 205 to 148. And hopefully this season, 147, 146, and 145. And as you can see on that back whiteboard, 144. Thank you guys for watching. You guys are awesome. Niko Schultz out. Peace.
How do people feel about getting Big Fitness Energy at Planet Fitness for $1 down and $10 a month? They feel as thrilled as a kid the first summer they're tall enough to ride the roller coaster! That's right. When you join Planet Fitness right now, you'll get access to tons of equipment and free fitness training in a clean and spacious club. Don't wait. Join the judgment-free zone today for that all-day energy. Download the free Planet Fitness app and join today for $1 down, $10 a month.
Deal ends soon.
See Home Club for details.
My early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take, but it gave my mom and me more time to plan together.
Talk to your family about seeing a doctor. Go to alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Jay,
Do you think it's too early to talk about Patrick Mahomes as the greatest of all time? You know, to be honest with you, I think he might be ahead of the pace. It was definitely on pace, maybe ahead of the pace. I think right now everything that he does is going to get overblown, and I think people so quickly forgot the 20-year run of the Patriots. Not 5-6 years, 20-year run of Tom Brady and the Patriots.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Back to The Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Pre-race anxiety, pre-race nerves, anything that gets you nervous or anxious before a competition. Welcome to the video, guys. My name is Niko Schultz, 800-meter runner here in Nebraska, and this is something I've struggled with ever since I started running track, or really any competition in general, even my early days when I started playing football, basketball. But as the competition levels increase and as I've gotten older, I've been able to manage them a little bit better, even when the stakes got even higher. For example, in high school, when you're competing for your team, you're competing for the fun of it. You're competing because you like the sport. You're able to walk onto the team and have a good time. But then when you get to college, you're competing for a lot of different variables. You're competing for a spot. You're competing for, in a sense, money if you're on a scholarship. You are expected to perform at a certain standard if you're brought on for a certain amount of money. And there's so many different factors going on in your head, and there's so many high-level athletes out there that you're competing against that you can sometimes get lost in the fog, in a sense. And there's been a lot of races that I have not performed to my best, or I have not executed my race plan because I mentally was not in the right headspace going into the competition. And it took me a good season to figure out where I had to be mentally. And I'm going to share with you guys some strategies and tips that I do personally to help you guys get through this, whether you're at the high school level, middle school level, college, or even if you're a pro watching this. And so this is what I do. So each competition, no matter how big or how small, I always tell myself it's just another race. And this always calms my nerves, no matter if I'm going against one of the best in the world or if I'm going against, my own teammates at my home track meet and nobody else shows up. This really just helps calm things down, and the work that you put in is already done. When you're showing up to a track meet, you don't have to do anything extraordinary. You don't have to do anything that your body isn't used to doing. Yes, there's going to be certain days where you do amazing because your body's feeling 100%. There's going to be some days where you're a little bit tired going into a competition, and it's going to take a little bit more effort. Some days it's going to feel easy. Some days it's going to feel difficult. But the biggest thing is that you have to constantly remind yourself that, okay, I've already done so much work for this. I've put in the late nights, early mornings, discipline. I've ate right. I've done everything up to this point that I could possibly do. Now all I got to do is go out there and do my thing. It's almost like you already put the money in the bank and you're just waiting for things to happen. My coach always likes to say this saying, your hay's already in the barn. You already got this. And so you have nothing else to be nervous about. And so the best thing too to remember is that a lot of athletes are in your shoes as well. When you're going out there and everybody looks like super tough, super mean, in a sense they're in the same boat as you. They're nervous. They're nervous about their competition. People in the stands watching, and that's another factor too. I mean, silencing the crowd is something that is difficult no matter how big of a competition you're going against. It's nice to not get too high and then not get too low as well. And what I mean by that is you don't want to get too excited before your race. There are some people who love having conversations before a race to calm their nerves, or just kind of being funny or kind of being goofy, being locked out of the moment. And there's some people who are too low, who are too, oh my gosh, like this is about to be the worst thing of my life. They're doubting themselves. They don't really want to be there. And so you want to stay in this happy median between the two of not being too ecstatic and not being too low. There's been a lot of track meets where I've showed up and I've saw people and I've saw friends and people have come up to me. They're like, oh, Niko, blah, 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 asking all these questions. And I would kind of get my focus taken away from my competition. And I would start having these conversations and I show up to the competition flat. I show up to the competition without any of the juice, any of the fire. And I'm like, dang, like, why do I feel like this? It's because I'm giving away the energy before the competition even started. And you can't do this. You have to make sure you are staying locked in. And in college, I'm sure some of my college athletes can relate to this. There are so many times where the wait is ridiculous. And this is what causes the most anxiety, is having to wait out there for the next, competition to end so that you can walk onto the track and you're just there sitting. And something that I like to do is just keep myself grounded. I'm constantly just like kind of bopping my head. I'm just doing motions that like make me feel confident. I'm just like, I kind of like practicing my arms a little bit. I'm just like thinking about my race strategy. I'm just doing certain like psychology things to help me. And some people do their own little thing. I mean, some people want to bounce side to side. Some people do some jumps. Some people do some strides. I just like envisioning my success and being there and just kind of going like this in a sense too. I stole that one from Will Sumner, the national champion last year in the 800 who ran 144. I saw that he worked with sports psych, and he does this to envision his success. And it's something I kind of took too, and it's been working. I did that before my Arkansas race last week when I ran 147, and I genuinely think it does work. And another way and another strategy that I like to calm my nerves and calm my mind is journaling. Journaling writes out my race plan, my race thoughts, fears, everything like that. And it's always like this. Before I journal, I don't want to journal. I hate it. But then as soon as that pen hits the paper, I have so much to say, and then I reread it, and it really calms my mind because it's your own thoughts. It's the way you're feeling. It's the way that you view yourself, and that is super important, especially in the world of track and field too, because during the race, when let's say you have a longer race like an 800 for example, and somebody passes you early on within 200, 400 meters, in your mind you got to tell yourself, I can beat this guy, I got to stay with him, I cannot let them get too far ahead of me. If they pass you, in your mind you instantly tell, oh, you suck, they're better than me, yada yada yada. They're gonna end up passing you, and you're never gonna catch up because you're too busy doubting yourself rather than making up the distance and making up the ground to win the competition. And so you just have to always be positive and always stay locked in and just stay disciplined during the race and just be in like this middle median meditative state where you are just ready to fire on all cylinders. And so going back to the journal I mentioned with you guys about writing out my race strategy calms me down, writing out my pre-race thoughts, fears, ambitions, really anything, just getting something on that paper really does help. And if you want to take it to the next level too, what I recently started doing is meditating with classical music. Classical music, they say, it even helps you study. And so I saw a little study on that about how, it helps you study and do classwork. And so like I thought to myself, okay, why don't I do these before my track races and my competitions? So what I'll do is I put my music on, I'll kind of sit like in a Zen pose, my hands on my knees, and I'll just sit there kind of crossed and just envision the success, just calm everything down, and it's almost like the world just kind of stops moving a little bit. And it really helps. It really helps because I'll show up to these competitions and I'll really be locked in. It's an effort to get into the state that you want to be in before your competitions. It's not something that just happens naturally. You gotta have. It took me a while to adapt race awareness, and the only way I achieved that was from running a lot of 800 and from training my mind to be able to compete at a high level. And it's super important. It's something that you cannot overlook. And basically, you just got to remind yourself that you're meant to be in that position. You're meant to be there. There were so many times last year and so many previous races where I thought, you're not meant to be there. You're not good enough. You don't deserve this, right? And I had to get rid of that way of thinking because I'm putting in so much work and so much time to show up to these competitions and think less of myself. And you don't deserve that. You deserve the world. And you have to be able to, in a sense, give self-love and self-confidence and self-belief that you are capable of achieving whatever it is that you set your mind out to do. And that is the number one thing you gotta remember in this video, or take away from this video, is that you gotta go in, believe in yourself. Even if you do absolutely terrible, you cannot lose your identity. You do absolutely great or absolutely terrible, do not lose your identity within your competition. You are not going to change because you ran an amazing time, and you're not going to change because you ran a terrible time. You're still the same person you are. What you do on the track versus who you are as a person are two different entities. And it's difficult to believe that because you spend so much time in track and field and so much effort and energy into it that, in a sense, it carries over to your personal life because that's all you think about. But one thing that's really helped me is, honestly, this YouTube thing, this video editing thing. It's helped me take my mind away from all the craziness in track and field, put my energy into something else, and basically take that away, so that when I'm on the track, I'm thinking about track. I'm 100% track. I'm there. I'm on the track. I'm envisioning success. And when I'm off the track on YouTube, I'm here helping you guys. I'm here giving some knowledge. I'm here helping people with videos and different things like that. And so whatever your niche is, whatever your hobby is, definitely do that outside of that to help take your mind off of things, because it does get draining, especially at the collegiate level. The seasons are long. The seasons are daunting in a sense. I mean, when you go all the way from your training for a fall all the way into the summer, June, I mean, that's almost like half a year. That's more than half a year. It's like 7-8 months. And so you just can't get lost. And what I say is get lost in the sauce in a sense. And so that's my biggest takeaways for you guys is no race is bigger than the next. Journaling, envisioning your success, not having self-doubt, and just remembering to not get lost into your track identity, because I have gotten lost in it in both senses. There's been races where I've been a little bit too high and I did really good, and I was riding off that high, and I was getting too froggy, I was getting too cocky in a sense. And then there's been races where I've done really bad, and then a downward spiral will start, right? I start getting down on myself. I start thinking that I'm not good enough. I start thinking that I don't deserve to be at the D1 level. And even at this level, even against some of the best in the world, like people still have these thoughts. There's a lot of Olympians and a lot of people, a lot of CEOs, people who have so much success in the world that are depressed, that have issues. I mean, no matter what you have materialistic or what you've accomplished, people still have to live with whatever they think of themselves. At the end of the day, it's you versus you. And you really have to train your mind and discipline your actions to align to the person that you want to be. Last year, I had a lot of issues because there was things I wanted to accomplish and I wasn't doing. Like, there was accomplishments on the track that I was falling short of doing. There was accomplishments with my personal life, like this hobby, for example. I would always think about doing it and I would never put the actions forward, and it was killing me on the inside because I was so passionate about it, and I kept on having these dreams, but I would never pursue them. And so it was just this downward spiral of wanting to do something but procrastinating it, and then putting in work on the track that wasn't being seen. The results weren't being performed, and I was losing my mind. I was like, man, what do I do? And I really had to take a step back, debrief from everything, take a break, and then come back and hit it even harder for 2024. And that's why I do these videos, and that's why I'm here today sharing with you guys my personal experiences. So if you guys have any questions or concerns, please leave them in the comments with your situation, your current scenario, and any way that you think I can help you get through whatever it is that you're going through at the moment. So thank you guys. This has been Niko Schultz, 800 meter from Nebraska, on my 2 cents on how to deal with pre-race anxiety and mental health and self-belief and confidence on the track. So stay tuned for the next video, guys. But this has been Niko, and peace out.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at the Ticket.